He's only been in the job for 5 years, and the outgoing Director General is leaving the BBC in a perilous position.
I'm here to lead and support the BBC. I'm very, very proud of our journalists in this building.
But Tim Davie wasn't hanging around for questions, and with the threat of a $1 billion lawsuit from Donald Trump also hanging over the BBC, he told worried staff the corporation was being weaponised.
We have to be very clear and stand up for our journalism. We are a unique and precious organisation. And I see the free press, I see the weapon under pressure, I see the weaponisation.
Tim Davie and the head of BBC News, Deborah Turness, resigned partly over this misleading edit in a Panorama programme.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell.
Which joined two separate parts of Donald Trump's speech ahead of the January the 6th insurrection. That, they admit, was a mistake, but are adamant there's no wider institutional bias. And today the Culture Secretary came to the BBC's defence.
Those in this House attacking the BBC from left and right for not expressing views they agree with should consider just what is at stake. There is a fundamental difference between raising serious concerns over editorial failings and members of this House launching a sustained attack on the institution itself.
Which is not how the Tories see it.
The BBC is in a sorry mess, and sadly, one of its own making. These recent leadership changes are a response to the growing number of examples of bias in the BBC.
Both inside and outside the BBC, there are allegations that this man, Robbie Gibb, former Tory spin doctor, is playing an overly political role on the BBC board.
Serious concerns remain over the conduct of Sir Robbie Gibb. It's time to review the influence of former Conservative spin doctor Robbie Gibb.
Robbie Gibb, faithful or traitor?
The Culture Secretary said she didn't have the power to sack him, and the BBC chair dismissed suggestions of a boardroom plot.
I think it's fanciful. I don't believe in conspiracy theories.
But with this letter from Donald Trump's lawyers burning a hole in his desk, there's the urgent matter of how to address the president's demands for compensation.
I would expect the BBC to be talking to Mr. Trump's lawyer in Florida, to be discussing the wording of an apology, the details of a retraction, and above all, trying to work out what level of compensation would satisfy the president.
The organisation that has just celebrated one of its biggest hits has been plunged into a crisis.
And I suggest you regroup, because there is still everything to fight for.
And still has to find someone to lead them out.
And Romilly's here with me, as you can see. So, Romilly, after yesterday's admission of mistakes by some at the BBC, it does feel as though there was a bit more of an effort from some quarters today to rally round the corporation.
Yes, that's right. After almost 2 days of near silence from the government, while the BBC contorted itself into ever more painful positions, the Culture Secretary did give it pretty full-throated backing today, calling it a light on the hill and urging the more partisan attacks from MPs to stop. But where the government has been much less forthcoming in its support for the BBC is in this legal battle with Donald Trump, which is not just painful for the BBC, it's also really awkward for the government, which has bent over backwards not to upset Donald Trump in any form. I've spoken to plenty of people within the BBC today, and there is deep gloom about the prospect of that legal case. But there's also quite a lot of anger about that staff meeting that they had today with Tim Davie and Samir Shah, with many saying that they felt that there were questions about Robbie Gibb's role that weren't addressed, and that the pretty softball one that was answered was brushed aside. Robbie Gibb himself hasn't said anything yet, but that is going to have to change in the coming weeks, because the Culture Select Committee is asking all the key players in this to give evidence before it.
Yeah, this is not the end of it, is it, Romilly? Thank you very much indeed.